we're sitting at the table with the architects of much of what it is that gets talked about in this idea of culture of honor. And Bill, Kris, thank you so much for being part of this. And we have so many things to talk about. We could talk for hours, actually. But what I would like to start off with is just a little bit of the history of the idea of a culture of honor. Where is it drawing from as we coin that term? Because the culture of honor is really something, in my experience, that somebody outside of our environment recognized. They said, "You have such a culture of honor here. I had never even noticed it before." It'd be like somebody saying, "You guys speak English in this environment." And you're like, "I didn't realize we had another choice." And so, Bill, much of it comes from your dad, Earl.
A culture of honor is where you treat another person as you would Jesus. That's really the basis, is that it has its foundation in your value for God. If it's man-centered, then it becomes humanistic, it becomes flattery, it becomes all the kinds of things that are perversions of the real thing. But when it starts, Paul said, submit yourself to one another in the fear of Christ. And so there's this value for people that starts with how I approach Jesus himself. And he says, when you've done it to the least of these, you've done it to me. And so that means that when I look at someone that I want to honor, they don't have to earn it, because I'm doing it as I would do it to the Lord himself. Yeah. And that's the backbone.
Yeah, and I don't remember, growing up in Weaverville with you and Kris, I don't remember a message about honor. I just remember watching it. Do you remember teaching?
No, I didn't teach on, I taught on how to display honor, how to value people, but I don't remember ever teaching on the culture of honor. Never. I didn't know you needed to. It wasn't
until you met me.
It wasn't a decision.
Yeah.
It was a lifestyle. You can have honorable acts. You can choose to do an honorable act, and that's a good way to start the process. But the culture, a true culture, affects how you think, how you view the world, how you view yourself, what makes you get up in the morning, how your heart beats for certain things. It's because of that kingdom culture, the culture of honor. Yeah. And I learned it from my dad. I watched how he treated his quote unquote enemies, those who opposed him, those who would split the church, those who would cast the stones at him and just say all kinds of horrible things. And I watched how he treated them. And he ended up doing their funerals. He ended up visiting them in the hospital. He ended up, just showing them incredible, incredible mercy, because it's just the way he lived, when they least deserved it. And person after person would turn from, their evil ways, or literally, and religious evil ways. And they would turn to him because he would honor them when they didn't deserve it. Yeah. Yeah. So I grew up watching that, and just it was the only way to live,
Yeah, it's such a life transforming experience to cross paths with somebody that is leading in this mindset, or this this core value set that, and then you and I come from a whole nother experience of how you treat people. Well, not even really. And we end up just so impacted. When you think about the foundations of honor and culture, what comes to mind?
Well, again, we were talking a little bit earlier before the cameras rolled and I can't remember a message that Bill taught on honor, as far as like scripting a message. I don't ever remember that, but Bill was the first man and Benny that I ever really felt like. The words that come to my mind is he valued people. They valued people who they didn't necessarily agree with. They refused to speak negatively about people ever. And we lived with him for 6 months, and I can remember I had come up with a little bit different system than that. It was, if you think it, say it kind of culture. And nothing's out of bounds, So, I can remember just, saying all kinds of crazy stuff about, man, I just don't like that person. And Bill never said anything. I don't remember Bill saying much to me. He would just look at me. Like he just refused to enter those conversations. You know, so those kind of conversations about dishonoring conversation about other people, they never got momentum because Bill and Benny just like
Didn't participate.
Refused to participate, and you sort of felt stupid for participating.
All alone. You got this all alone feeling.